The next section deals with the California Public Records Act. And this has to do with basically what it says, records that are generated, that are kept in the course and the scope of your neighborhood council, and the duty or the obligation that you have with those records when someone makes a request from you. The law has been on the books for a number of years, about 50 years, and it applies to neighborhood councils because, again, they were created by the city. So the purpose of the law is whenever a member of the public is allowed to make a request and obtain information that is a public record from a government agency, that agency has to respond and to make those records available. And again, you are treated as a public agency, and you have a responsibility and obligation to disclose those records in a timely and or make them available to the public. One of the important things to remember whenever you get a California Public Records type question or issue, immediately talk to your project advocate, immediately get their input, get them involved in the process. And the reason being is because there are timelines. The clock begins to tick as soon as the request comes in, and it's really important to get them on board as quickly as possible. They'll contact our office, and then we'll be working together to try to provide a response and or a way to handle the situation. And the request doesn't have to be in writing. It doesn't have to be presented in a particular way. The person can just say it orally, or if you believe that they made a request for records, well, then you treat it as a Public Records Act, and you don't. I mean, as a courtesy, you can ask them, can you put it in writing so then you'll know what exactly they're requesting, so at least you have a record of it. If they say no, well, then they don't have to put it in writing. But as soon as you make the determination that a request has been made, you have 10 days then not to turn over the records or make the records available. You have 10 days to make the determination as to whether or not the records will be made available for that person, the requester, to inspect the records. So that's what the law says. You don't have to turn or make the records available within 10 days. Just to make, you have to act. You have to do something, and you have to make a decision as to whether or not those records should be made available. There's exceptions as to what you must disclose. There are safeguards, there are protections for you as a neighborhood council as to what you have to make available. But the public can pretty much, if you think about it, it's considered an open records act, and it's transparency. It's good. It's a good government type law. So these records, I would say 9 times out of 10 should be made available to the requester. It's very, very rare to have a record that's going to be kept from them. And even if it is going to be kept from them, there's a portion of the record that, or most of a particular record that should be disclosed. In other words, you can have a document that, let's say, just a portion of it can be protected, or can be what's called redacted, or whited out or blacked out or whatever, but 90% of the record should be turned over to the requester. And basically the exemption is really based on privacy type issues. In other words, if there's a record which has your address, your phone number, your social security number, your date of birth, those are the types of things that you would not turn over to a requester who's made a request, because those are personal information type things. Those are that's information that you would expect to keep private and not have the public have that record. But everything else in that document should be made available. Again, this is the last part that I'll talk about, the exemptions or the exceptions to the Public Records Act. There are very few exceptions, but again, if you think that there is a record that you think should not be made available, should not be disclosed, again, make sure you work with your coordinator as quickly as possible so we can make that analysis, we can make that determination to help you in providing that information or not providing the information as the case may be.